Okay, welcome back to another virtual nutrition discussions with myself, Andy Sykes, strength and conditioning specialist here at WSU. And today we are covering how to optimally prepare for exercise or activity, even a game day situation, or just your average workout in the weight room, cardio room. So first off, I want to make sure that you all are, I hope you are staying safe and healthy at this time, staying warm with the cold weather that we're experiencing. But yeah, let's get started with this. First, I want to preface that you should be having a good diet throughout your day normally. In addition to that, we're going to talk about what things can enhance your performance, but that has to start with the right diet. And those are recommendations, the recommend daily allowances for carbohydrates being 3 to 12 grams per kilogram, roughly 45 to 65% of your diet intake per day. Protein is their recommendation is at 0.8 grams per kilogram, can go up to towards 2 grams per kilogram, roughly 20 to 30% of your daily intake. And fat doesn't have a gram value, but it should be 20 to 35% of your diet. Don't forget, you should be drinking enough water, 2.7 liters to 3.7 liters for females and males respectively, but roughly about a milliliter per kilocalorie that you're consuming. So if you have a 2,000 calorie diet, 2 liters of water is really where we recommend you consuming. In addition to those, you got to be consuming your micronutrient contents. So that's your minerals, your vitamins. All of those things go into living a healthy daily life. So those are needed prior to any additional things that we'll talk about today. So to start this conversation, I want us to have a quick breakdown of what's actually happening, the acute responses during exercise. So if we start to have exercise, we jump on the treadmill or we start warming up some way, doing some jumping jacks, what's actually happening in our body? So first off, our brain is sending that signal, that neural stimulation down our spine to the motor units, and we're contracting those muscle fibers. Within that, we're getting a lot of release of different chemicals, neurotransmitters, calcium, to actually have contraction happening with the myosin and the actin and the cross bridging. We're getting some byproducts being produced. We're getting heat being produced. So we're going to start sweating. We're going to have increased heart rate. We're going to have increased breathing rate. Blood flow is going to change. We're going to be releasing energy from storages so that we can use it and catabolize that. And we're going to have a release of some hormones too. Oxygen consumption is going to go up. Carbon dioxide utilization or production is going to go up. And so you can see there's many different systems into play here. And maybe I don't even cover all of the things that are actually happening, but a quite in-depth array of different systems into play here. And the idea behind this presentation today is how do we create this environment for them all to perform as best as possible? So how do we fuel these systems? And this is really going to depend on what type of exercise you're about to start doing, because the recommendations are going to change depending on if you're going to do a 100-meter dash on one end of this very intense spectrum versus a marathon, which is a lower intensity but longer in duration. So, or, somewhere in the middle or towards the higher end, maybe you're going into the weight room and doing some resistance training. What intensity, how big are your rest periods, how hard are you actually working? That's going to really influence how I can recommend you best prepare yourself for that exercise. So I'm going to give you a few examples here as we go through this, and maybe it'll apply to you and you can make this useful for yourself. And it all depends really on this metabolic demand. Okay, this is the largest influencer on performance, whether you're going to do really well in that workout, that game day, that competition, or you're not going to do so hot, is to do with how are you loading those fuel systems correctly. Now, a quick breakdown, and we have discussed this in previous nutrition discussions where we talk about daily life and how we're metabolizing energy. But within a workout, are you at a really high intensity during your workout? Are you having longer rest breaks because it is high intensity? Maybe using this ATP system, phosphagen system, producing very high intensity energy. Or are you a little bit slower, a little bit shorter on your rest periods because you don't need so much rest, but more in the glycolytic, more weight training? Or are you more steady state cardio where it's more oxidative and aerobic energy production? You go lower intensity, you go for a lot longer in duration, and your rests aren't as long. Okay, so it really depends on the type of exercise you're going to do. And again, let me give you a few examples on this. So very high intensity exercise, sprinting, 100-meter sprints, Olympic lifting. When you're going to do this all out really hard, but you're going to have a long rest period afterwards to replenish those systems. So when we're doing this type of exercise, we're using the Phosphagen energy system. I've got a quick breakdown here on the screen of how that works with the phosphorylation of ADP's molecules to create this ATP molecule, or the use of creatine to rephosphorylate that ATP molecule. Because we are doing that, we are trying to get this ATP molecule so quickly, we will deplete it. We will also deplete the creatine phosphate that we use to phosphorylate. We get hydrogen ions produced as a byproduct, and that's going to inhibit our calcium binding capabilities within the actin and myosin cross bridging of muscle contraction. There's pretty low neural fatigue here because it is so quickly started and finished. The brain's really not going to have too much of an issue sending these signals to the body. That's part of the training program, but it isn't something that we can fuel and improve on the day, really. The recommendations I have here is to make sure that you're hydrated. 2 to 3 cups of water, 2 to 3 hours prior, making sure we're hydrating is pretty standard hydration. And then a cup right before you start, 20 minutes, 15 minutes before. Because we are using the Phosphagen system, using some sort of creatine would be advantageous here. So using that 5 grams a day. And if it is your first time using those with that loading of 20 grams a day for 5 gram doses until we're loaded. If we are at high enough intensities and we are producing some of these acidic environments, shutting down the muscle capabilities, then a sodium bicarbonate or something alkaline, beta-alanine, would help in buffering that acidity out of the system. And sometimes used when more with 1 rep maxing, powerlifting, Olympic lifting, the use of ammonia salts to increase alertness and irritation kind of gets you riled up, ready to really give an all-out effort in this type of movement. So those are recommendations for really high intensity, quite limited on duration and high rest. But that isn't going to cover for many of you. So what else we have is repeated bouts of high intensity exercise. This is more your resistance training, your circuit room, F45 downstairs, game day situations, you're playing intramurals or playing competitive college games. We're going to be using the Phosphagen system again, but we're also going to be using that fast glycolytic processes, glycolysis. We're going to get a similar breakdown. The ATP is going to be depleted, the creatine is going to be depleted, but you're also going to start looking at blood glucose and also muscle glycogen, liver glycogen being depleted here as well. And I've got those quick overview there on the screen of the Phosphagen system, and then rapid glycolysis there. You will again have some acid being produced, some hydrogen ions being released there, and we want to try to limit that. And again, it's really not going to have much neurological fatigue here. There may be some adenosine being crossed over on the blood-brain barrier, which it converts to serotonin, makes us tired. We could look at something that we could take during our workouts there to inhibit that, but it's not likely going to be too much of a problem. The suggestions there are to, again, be hydrated, 2 to 3 cups of water, 2 to 3 hours before, 1 cup, about 20 minutes prior, and then every 15 to 20 minutes in that workout. So depending on how long it is, if it's greater than 60 minutes, I do recommend having a sort of sports beverage to help with the glucose and the electrolyte balance if we are sweating a lot with that longer duration workout. With that loading of the carbohydrates, I just mentioned it kind of there with a sports beverage, but making sure we're high in our storages prior to exercise, 1 to 4 grams per kilogram, 2 to 4 hours before, with low GI. So this is low blood sugar going into the body. So nothing really sweet. Again, our creatine stores need to be full. That's 5 grams a day. And protein, I wouldn't suggest doing this too soon before exercise. Some people take a protein shake before exercise. I do not recommend that. That's going to increase rate of perceived exertion. Your workout is going to seem harder if you take protein too soon before. So 2 to 4 hours before, with some carbohydrates to help the absorption. And really we're looking for 10 grams of essential amino acids. Normally you'll find that in roughly 20 grams of protein. We want to buffer those alkaline, those acidic environments again. So the sodium bicarbonate is going to come in helpful again. The beta-alanine is another example. Stimulate with some caffeine. Yohimbine is another one that I've seen some good research on, being able to help alertness and inhibit fatigue when it's a longer duration event. And then blood supply. If we've got all these things in our body now, the blood is going to be the supplier of all these nutrients. So making sure we got good blood supply. This can be done with nitric oxide compounds, with such as citrulline or arginine, but also food like beets increases are very high in nitrates, and they can improve our blood flow. So if you are watching this video for the extra credit within my nutrition class or my strength and conditioning class, go ahead and email me the code word preparation. Email it to my email address, andy.sykes@whichside.edu. I'll get you those 5 points. So go ahead and do that. We'll move on to a lower intensity, low to moderate intensity exercise, such as your cardio room, steady state, Ironmans, marathons, things that are constant, longer duration, but less intense. So within this, we will again use some phosphagen. We will still use some rapid glycolysis. Whenever we do sprints, we try to make some moves. But in general, it's going to be slow glycolysis. It's going to be Krebs cycle that are really fueling these exercise bouts in this workout. So we will see depletion of ATP, creatine, glucose, and glycogen in the storage form in muscles and in liver. Our calcium is going to be depleted with our muscle contractions constantly going through. And because it's such a longer duration, we're going to have increased heat production, we're going to sweat more, and we're going to lose those electrolytes. We're still going to get the acidic buildup, so we need to prepare for that. And because it is longer duration, we are going to come into the risk of using all our glycogen stores. And when that happens, our body moves to another resource, which is protein. We're going to have catabolism of our muscle cells happening. So we want to make sure that our glycogens are loaded there, otherwise we will risk our protein being broken down. Again, because it's long, steady state, it's long duration, repetitive contraction, over contraction, we will get some neurologic fatigue here. So we get the reduced secretion of our stimulating hormones, epinephrine, norepinephrine, our dopamine, our acetylcholine, the neurotransmitter that actually excites at the muscular junctions. We will deplete choline, we will deplete calcium there. And we will have the accumulation of adenosine and tryptophan across the blood-brain barrier. Because again, with long duration, high body temperatures, the increased sweat rate there is going to cause us to decrease blood volume, is going to lose electrolytes, and that's going to decrease our cardiac output, okay? So decreasing performance the muscles can have. So we want to make sure that we stay hydrated there and we can perform well. So the suggestions on that one, same thing, come in hydrated, 2 to 3 cups, 2 to 3 hours before. But again, 2.7 to 3.7 liters of water, depending on your recommendation, male or female. Another cup every 15 to 20 minutes if it's greater than 60 minutes, which is likely with these long steady state exercises. Having a sports beverage with that 6 to 8% carbohydrate solution, Gatorade, Powerade, things like that. Loading our carbohydrate stores, same recommendation there, up to 600 grams a day has seemed to have improvements. Above that, they're not so sure, but that will depend on your size and your event. Creatine, still want to have those full. That's going to help you being able to produce intensity if you need it. Protein, same thing there, 10 grams of essential amino acids, roughly in 20 grams, 15 to 25 grams of general protein with that combination of the carbohydrates. And then iron, 8 to 18 grams per kilogram, 8 to 18 grams a day. That's a typo there. And that depends if you're male, female, pre or post-menopausal. But making sure we have enough iron so we can hold the oxygen capabilities in our blood and utilize that oxygen. We want to buffer the acid, same as that we've seen on the other systems, that with sodium bicarbonate, beta-alanine, again, stimulate with caffeine, yohimbine, and supply with blood flow, nitric oxide, citrulline, arginine. If this is extended exercise past 60 minutes, again, having our sports beverage there, topping up carbohydrates, either with a sports beverage or something like a carbohydrate gel, energy gel, carbohydrate bars, and then topping up sodium levels. If it's not enough in the sports beverage itself, when we have long events, 0.5 to 1 gram of sodium per hour can be lost through sweat. So that will depend on sweat rates. We'll do that on a time trial type of thing and figure that out. The other thing that we can look at is the opportunity that branched chain amino acids have in decreasing the central fatigue when that tryptophan turns to serotonin in the brain. So a mix of 20 grams of branched chain amino acids taken during your workout or during this long steady state can help you provide constant neurological stimulation or just inhibiting the fatigue that can occur. After your workout, how do we replenish those stores? Well, carbohydrates and protein within 15 to 30 minutes, really that anabolic window. But as long as you're getting it in, it's just ideal to get it early. Just get it in afterwards. So that 15 to 25 grams of protein with your 1.1 to 1.2 grams of carbohydrates for every kilogram body weight. Sodium if we lost a lot of water weight. And the way we just figure that out is we weigh ourselves before and after exercise. If we lose weight during an exercise session, it's not because you've lost a ton of fat or muscle, it's because we just changed our hydration status. So making sure we rehydrate 16 to 24 ounces for every pound lost during that workout. And for every liter that you do lose, when we work out through ounces there on our weight, a gram of sodium for every liter that we've lost. Some people ask me supplements, and I will be discussing this in a future lecture, so I won't go too in depth on supplements today, but making sure we got our minerals and vitamins. There's some that really have enhanced performance here. I've got listed a few that I highlight here. Calcium with its use in muscle contraction really, but bone and nerve health too. Chromium with our insulin metabolism, sodium, potassium, the electrolytes, iron, being able to hold on to the oxygen within our cells. Our B vitamins within the Krebs cycle help us produce energy. Our vitamin C, vitamin E are antioxidants and help us recover if we have oxidative stress. And zinc for our immune system and just repair and recovery, and the recommendations there on those levels. Past that, protein, I'd rather you get this in food, but if you can't get enough of it, get it in some sort of supplement, ensuring we're getting those 9 essential amino acids. Some highlighted ones like glutamine or leucine are particularly important, but getting those in with some sort of protein source. I get questions about different sources of protein, such as the different ways that are there, concentrate, isolate, hydrosolate, how they're broken down, separated from the fat that's also in protein. And then hydrosolates when they start actually hydrolyzing that amino acid, so breaking it down for you so it's more quickly absorbed. The price changes with each of those. And then you've got casein, which is that chalkier substance that comes from milk. Same as whey does. Whey is the liquid part of milk. Casein is the more solid, powdery part of milk. But both protein sources, and we normally see casein taken more at night. So it talks about timing there. Again, I'll discuss this more in a future lecture, so look forward to that. Other ones that come in to highlight HMB, beta hydroxylate, beta methylbutyrate, really good for our anti-catabolic effects. This actually increases our strength and decreases the chance we'll lose muscle mass through long duration exercise. Creatine, as I was mentioned before, we want to make sure we get that 5 grams a day. Caffeine, yohimbine, tart cherry juice. I love this one. I take mine every day as well. It's great for recovery of exercise and helping us deal with exercise stress. And taurine helps us deal with exercise stress too. So that's another one that I recommend. And all of these that I'm listing here actually have science behind. So these are good ones to take and have research backing them. So to summarize here, if you're not a Olympic athlete or you're not going to do a marathon, how does this apply to you? Well, just the basic exercise, you come in, do some sort of resistance training or some sort of cardio session. Be hydrated. Make sure you're taking in enough water. Water is the largest part of blood volume. So if you're well hydrated, you've got more blood, that supplies all the nutrients to the body. Make sure we're hydrated. Eat prior. We've got the recommendation of those 25 grams of protein with 35 grams of carbs, having that 1 to 4 hours prior, not right before you exercise, or you're going to increase that RPE and then feel like that workout's harder than it should be. If you want to be a little bit more competitive, look at doing those same things, but add creatine to it. Have some sort of way to buffer out the acidity that you may get with intense exercise. So beta alanine there and caffeine to help us really be stimulated and inhibit fatigue that may occur. So I think that's all I have for you today. I hope you found this useful. I hope you can take this information and be more competitive if that's what you want to be, and enjoy your workouts. So yeah, enjoy that. If you are trying to get the extra credit, don't forget to email me, and stay safe and warm. Have a great day.